Jack, you want to join? What's up? I'm good.
She's
I'll
drinking
get
iced
it.
tea.
Thanks. I am.
She's got to host the Scammies later.
I'm hosting the
She's
Scammies.
gonna-
Plus, the
she's gonna
carnivory
work-
dinner was pretty intense last night.
Was it?
Yeah, we missed you there. Vortex,
I was
get your
there
butt
for a
over here.
bit.
By the way, Jack just did killer on his panel. That was
Thank
really
you.
interesting.
This guy's
Appreciate
going
it.
to remember your name forever.
I promise I won't
That's-
forget your
that's
name from
romantic.
here. Ooh,
I
all
like him
right.
already.
I guess the
I'm
short
sure he
skinny
knows my name,
was
too.
What's
asset
up?
management firm
Making fun of the guy in the
specialized.
chat.
Oh,
Yeah.
Do you think
Anyways,
she's cute. Only him.
only
you
him.
guys are much cuter.
No,
Like
we're
this
not.
is just an absolute yeah.
Maybe
Only him.
Jack.
Well,
The matching
Jack-
colors. Although I don't know, man. The shoes and where are your yellow shoes, man?
Don't exist.
Turtle penalty.
You know, swag is not one of my forms of expertise. I can admit that. I need fashion help all the time, so don't judge me too hard.
So we've got Jack Maulers from Zap Wallet here. We have to ask you all the hard questions on Zap Wallet.
Okay.
You have a new thing where we can pay. How does it work?
Oh,
Bye, Thomas.
You're gonna leave?
I am.
Since we
I
get to
am.
the hard
Well,
questions.
when we finally have my finance, and then I'm
Okay.
gonna come back. But
Come back
seriously,
later.
and for everybody to watch, there were some nice controversial arguments that you had against Adam. It was fabulous. So everybody should watch that. It was with Peter Todd as well. Jimmy moderating. It was fantastic. Anyways,
Finally, we're gonna miss you so
yeah.
much.
I'll catch you in a bit.
I
All
hope
right,
so.
I'll see you.
All right, send us in Vortex though. He's afraid. Like, make him comfortable.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. All right. So, Jack, you got a system.
I do.
I go to some business. I have a bank card. I
Mhm.
want to pay, but somehow I'm going to pay over Lightning.
It's true.
How is that magic going to work? The people at home, they want to know. Let's see. Change all them cameras.
How's it work? Like technically?
Sure. Just a basic 1, 2, 3. So I have a debit card.
Yeah.
Am I going to buy Bitcoin and send it to the thing? Is there
No.
a middle party? Is there like do I go to your company? Do I buy Bitcoin from you and then send it to someone?
You don't buy Bitcoin. All you have to do is link your debit card to the app, and you can scan any Lightning QR code you want. There's a lot of reasons why we did this. Some of them are owning Bitcoin. You have to incur the volatility risk, which was a huge deal in commerce.
Okay.
Owning Bitcoin, you take on taxes. It's a taxable event when you spend Bitcoin. That was a huge deal in conducting commerce. Having to custody it, not wanting to spend it because once you own it, you just want it to go up. So all you have to do is link your debit card, link your bank account, and you can scan any Bitcoin Lightning QR code you want, and it will debit from your fiat account, and it'll magically poop out Bitcoin on the other
All
side.
right, so where do I link it? Do I link it at like the Zap page? Do I link it with you guys? Who's going to handle the link?
So our app, we have an app called Strike. It is separate from Zap. It's on iOS, it's on Android, it's on desktop. There's browser extensions, and you link it there, and you have a balance similar to like Cash App. You can add money to the app when you receive on the
Is
app.
the money held as like a Bitcoin or a Litecoin, or is it held more like USD?
It's USD. It's
Okay.
really important that it's USD because you don't deal with any volatility. So if you want to be a private Lightning Network user, maybe you do want to download Zap and go about setting up your own channels, running over Tor. However, if you're a user that doesn't want to spend your HODL coins, you don't want to have taxable Lightning. So every Lightning payment is a taxable event. You don't want to deal with volatility. You don't have to trust custody trade-offs of custodial versus custodying your own keys. All you want to do is make the 5-cent payment for the article. You just link your debit card and you just scan the QR code, and it's that simple. And so, yeah, it's definitely a product that's geared to a more mainstream audience.
All right, so a guy in the chat says, is it going to be KYC?
Yeah, tough question. Yes. The detailed answer though is how much. And so this is a conversation that we have with regulators and very ongoing. So KYC AML laws are very layered in the sense that there's a level of KYC required for payments under $1,000 or payments in aggregate under $1,000, then $3,000 and $5,000 and $10,000. So the dream user experience for Strike that would make regulators happy and users happy in theory is something like name, email, and maybe an address, and that's it until you start to exceed certain limits. But regulators are tough to deal with, and so we obviously want to comply. I'm too sexy and too pretty to be going to jail. And so it's an ongoing conversation, but certainly I saw a lot of people that think I've solved the KYC problem and that I'm void of any regulation. And that's not true. I want to be very clear and upfront about that, is that we are a regulated business, but I do my best. I fight the good fight.
Now, I think there's kind of two kind of solutions. There's these power user solutions. You have all the options. Maybe there's more normal user solutions, like we were talking to Bobby Lee, who's doing Ballet Crypto, and it's a good little wallet for your normal user. Your power user might want to connect to their own node or have some other kind of advanced things. But for your normal user, using that Ballet Crypto seems fine for maybe $100 or so. And the same thing, using the Zap Strike wallet thing, I'm going to pay $10, I'm going to pay $100. It seems fine. I mean, yes, if you want to be totally invisible, you would be exposing your KYC info. But if you're fine paying $20 for something, or buying I don't know, whatever people buy these days, music CDs or whatever I was going to say. But,
we have a lot of beta testers right now. I know thousands have signed up for it, and we've got 100 plus, I believe, maybe over 200 at this point. And someone, I think 2 days ago, sent a $200 payment, and they bought a bunch of dog food for their dogs. And so, yeah, I think even linking your banking information to a financial application is revealing enough about yourself and in enough of a trust model, where KYC falls in a similar line. I know KYC can get extremely egregious and aggressive. And so we certainly want to limit that for our users. But it is not a application that is focused on 100% privacy, self-sovereignty. It is an application that is, how are 1 million people going to be able to scan a Lightning QR code? It certainly has a different target audience than the original Zap wallet.
Well, and this is the kind of thing that we're going to need as a temporary solution while Bitcoin's still becoming popular, while Lightning Network's still becoming popular. And maybe after they're popular, you would just pay in Lightning, or you would just pay in Bitcoin because it's easier. But for right now, a lot of people don't have that. A lot of people have debit cards. They have smartphones. They can get the app. They're not that worried about putting out a little personal information. It's not a big deal. Guy in the chat says, what will he see on his bank statement?
That's one of the cool privacy enhancements of Strike, is that your bank statement is just interacting with us as a business and our banking partners. So for the user that made a $200 Lightning payment for dog food with their debit card, their debit card just said that they had a debit to Zap. And then they bought an article and it was a debit to Zap. And then they bought a Fold gift card and it was a debit to Zap. And so your bank and debit card, these transactions aren't on your bank statement. And so that privacy is pretty interesting. And so it's just a relationship between your fiat rail and us as a business.
Now, is Zap holding on to those transactions? If I sue Zap or subpoena Zap, am I going to get all of the transactions from the other users? Are you saving them in a log? Do you have to save them?
So we are not a bank. We have various partners to pull this off on the compliance side, on the banking side. There's a lot that goes on the trading side. And so our banking partner is who you interact with. And in the CIP banking laws, do banks have to store financial transactions on their customers? My gut says I assume so. The honest answer is I'm not sure. But we don't personally store any of that stuff. We don't do anything with your bank account outside of debit and credit it. And so, yeah, we just interact with the partners.
I think that's great, because one of the examples, at least that your mom used to sell the Zap Strike application was, I don't want to talk out of school here, but your mom and I think your dad or stepdad own a legal recreational marijuana dispensary in the Denver where it's legal. And she was saying, yeah, you could come to the dispensary, you want to buy something, you don't have Bitcoin, you don't have Lightning, you can use this app, use your debit card, and like you're saying, it's just going to show up as Zap Wallet. So it's another layer, and sure, it doesn't matter if the government was like, later, we're going to find out how much you bought or whatever, but it is just another layer. Say if your wife or your kids saw your debit card statement, it wouldn't say pot. It's going to say Zap. So it's obscure. It's a little better.
Yeah.
And you get to use Bitcoin, which is fun.
And the advantage for my parents in this scenario, so my parents run multiple dispensaries, legal drug dealers. And And banking in cannabis is not something that is given. So in Colorado, the wait list to become banked, there's one bank that will bank you in cannabis in Colorado, and that wait list is now longer than 2 years. And for example, our credit card and debit card processor was down for multiple months where we couldn't process any payments. And so we give a discount if you pay in Bitcoin because it's so much easier. We don't need to ask anyone for permission, and we enjoy the asset. And so what's been happening is we give 10% off if you pay in Lightning. And people will walk in, they'll see this 10% off sign, and they'll be like, oh my God, how do I do that? And instead of, you have to go to Coinbase, buy Bitcoin, download Zap, set up your wallets, it's download Strike, link your debit card, and scan the QR code. And it's a beautiful experience. They don't even know they're using Bitcoin. They have no idea. They just see their debit card being debited. And us as a business, we get the luxury of essentially banking ourselves with Bitcoin. So it's nice.
Well, that sounds fantastic. And I know a lot of other cannabis businesses have big problems with having too much cash. I know Oaksterdam in Oakland, not near me right now, but usually near me. And they have allegedly vaults full of pallets of cash where they can't have a savings account. They can't have a banking account. They are a very profitable and successful business. They have lots of cold, hard cash, which they have to keep in stacks. And it costs them money, and it's inconvenient, it has security problems. So it would be much better if they could use Bitcoin or Lightning with this kind of app.
Every mildly successful cannabis business operates in too much cash, and it's a really bad thing because of how dangerous it is. You subject your employees in your business to risk because that is an opportunity of theft. And so we have a high security budget to not only protect the cash, but just to protect our employees. We don't want anyone walking into our store with a gun. And so it sucks. It costs a lot of money in the form of security to have to store so much cash. So
no one wants to hear this, but in a lot of ways, the government might be responsible for forcing these cannabis businesses into an unsafe position where they then lost funds or even had human personal damages, things destroyed, and so forth. So yeah, it is definitely something that needs to be improved. It's that strange gray market where it's legal, but it's not legal. It's federally illegal, but it's locally legal.
Yep.
So it is a great example for that. We have another question from the chat. He says, how come paying a Lightning invoice with USD is not a taxable event? What's different between paying with the Strike wallet that goes to your debit card and the Zap wallet, which would just go to your balance?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Bitcoin is taxed as property. And so that means that when you are an owner of the asset and you exchange the asset for any goods, services, or other currency, that is what's considered a taxable event. With Strike, you are never deemed an owner of the asset. All you've done is linked your debit card or linked your bank account, and you're basically directing Lightning payments out of our infrastructure, but you are not a Bitcoin holder. If, Bitcoin's at $10,000 and it goes to $5,000 and you're a Strike user, you're not impacted by that price decrease or a price increase. You've simply linked your bank account and debit card, so you cannot be taxed as you never owned Bitcoin as property. Whereas if you're using Zap, you are the owner of the Bitcoin. It's a non-custodial wallet, and that Bitcoin is owned by you and not owned by anyone else. So that is the key difference in the innovation in Strike when it comes to taxes.
Well, I think it sounds great, Jack. And I think it's much better when you explain it and I can ask you questions. It's a lot like I was talking to Bobby Lee about Ballet Crypto, and I was like, all right, man, I'm really worried about how you make the keys. If some dude's sitting in there with a camera, he's stealing all your keys, it's really bad for you. It's bad for everyone. Like, I just don't want that for anybody. But to hear you talk about it sounds very reasonable, legitimate. And again, we're talking about a solution for new users to use crypto. If you're like some super advanced user, you want to use your own wallet, you want to use your own node, you're set. But we're talking about those normal people that just want to get started. And especially, I think it's a great example. You're saying 10% off at the dispensary. A lot of people say that and they're, I have to jump through all these hoops. But if there was less hoops and if more places offered a discount for Bitcoin or for Lightning, and we had that your app, I mean, I think we could get a lot more people on board and a lot more people using crypto.
Yeah, I mean, the incumbents and inherent cost of traditional processing, we process so much cheaper so that businesses can offer discounts. And even as an advanced user myself, I use Strike instead of other wallets because I don't like spending Bitcoin. If I come across Bitcoin and I own Bitcoin, I hodl Bitcoin. I don't spend it. And so this is a way for me to interact with the Bitcoin economy with US dollars. And I'm getting to spend the shittier currency that is the US dollar instead of my Bitcoins. And so even as an advanced user, I think there's some luxury to it. But yeah, I appreciate it, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Well, very cool. Thanks again, Jack. Good to see you again. We saw you in Germany. I think we're in Berlin for the Lightning Conference.
We're all over the place.
And yeah, man, keeping it up, doing this Bitcoin thing. Thanks, guys.
Oh, handshake. Cheers.
I'm old school. I'm old.
Fair enough.
But yeah, thank you, Jack.
Absolutely. Thank you. Peace out, everyone.